Welcome to this week's episode of Unscientifically Analyzing the Worst Live-Action Superhero Costume Trend, featuring yours truly, a single unqualified idiot who has zero experience in real-world costume design. But before we get into this video, I just want to say that we've had more good costumes than bad ones. And just because I point out one trait I don't like doesn't mean I dislike the costume as a whole. Dude, this list is so invalid, you just cherry-pick the bad ones. Yeah, fucking congrats, Sherlock, that's exactly what I did. Anyway, the first design trend we have to tackle is one that I've seen everyone sick of right now. It's the line piping / panel lining. The reason I want to tackle this one first is because I think it's a bit over-hated. Everyone always says, oh, they MCU-fied this or they MCU-fied that, as if it's always a bad thing. But I personally think it has its place and justification sometimes. For example, we got the Captain America stealth suit. I'm telling you right now, this suit would look total ass without those extra lines. You just want some flat colors throughout? Doesn't really work with the whole military cargo aesthetic. Besides, that's exactly how we got the 2012 Avengers Captain America suit, which yeah, we all love, right? And I know for a fact that a shit ton of people were upset with the New 52 redesigns. I kind of grew up with the New 52, so I don't really think I'm allowed to complain, but characters like the Flash and Batman, I actually think they do look more modern with those lines running throughout. But that's beside the point because that's comic form and live action's different. So if you didn't already know, the purpose of these lines / panels is to break up solid colors in a costume. Especially because in armor and tactical gear in real life, you wouldn't just see one solid color just rolled out. And if a costume is just one flat color throughout, it might look a bit weird on screen, especially to an audience who aren't really familiar with the character. Anyway, now that we got the boring bit out of the way, let's look at some, in my opinion, bad examples. Exhibit 1A, we got the upcoming Superman costume. Now granted, we haven't seen the movie yet. I could eat my words, this whole section might age like milk. But dude, these lines, they are not doing it for me. Something about the distribution of the lines plus the baggy fit with it as well, it's just not working for me. The baggy costume is wrinkly enough, but then you're gonna add more lines on top of that? Again, I'm the expert, but even in the promo stills they released, I'm like, I can't lie, this looks fucked. I mean, just look at the fan art or the edits, just making the suit tighter or simplifying it as a whole just makes it way more digestible. Because I feel like if I just pushed on his side, it would just flap down in and out, you know what I mean? I think we can all agree that the Man of Steel costume and the Brandon Routh Kingdom Come costume still prove that simplicity works the best for Superman. And if this costume is made by his parents, it looks a bit too tactical with the lines everywhere, but if it's an alien costume, it looks a bit too homemade. I don't know, it's a weird in-between. Alright, Exhibit 1B, Tom Holland's first couple MCU Spider-Man costumes. There's a reason why everyone glazes that final suit at the end of No Way Home. We finally got rid of those random ass lines just running everywhere throughout his costumes. And again, I understand that the black lines were there to break up the solid colors and make it more visually interesting on screen, but I think nowadays we're slowly favoring the classic look. And when you previously had two perfect Spider-Man costumes and one polarizing one, it's a huge risk to add a bunch of shit that wasn't there originally. And especially when you compare it to the most recent suit we got, yeah, it looks really clean without the lines. Even just edits of the Homecoming suit without the piping everywhere, it just pops off the screen so much more. Alright, the Iron Spider suit, listen, I was never really a fan of it because, my god, something just looks wrong. I don't know if it's the colors or something, but maybe it's because we went from this to this. This might actually be a world record for most amount of lines added to a live-action superhero costume compared to the comic book counterpart. Exhibit 1C, we got John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. I mean, do I really need to say anything here? Do I? The guy looks like a 2035 Mario Kart racetrack. If you saw this guy, you would not assume he's some good old family man superhero who's super into science. No, you would assume that he's some military-tested, tech-based walking weapon. Especially when you compare it to how classic the upcoming Fantastic Four look and how the 2005 Fantastic Four rocked their shit. This just looks like a case of over-designing, in my opinion. Alright, second design trend I think I have to get out of the way because everyone talks about it. It's the nanotech helmet. Now, if you've been online or been in nerd circles, you've read complaints about nanotech helmets. And if you haven't, I'm about to indulge you. So the main criticism is that nanotech has infiltrated the MCU so deeply that every character basically has a nanotech component to their costume. I say MCU, by the way, because DC has been relatively sane when it comes to this. So when we had iconic suit ups from Iron Man like this, and this, we kinda maxed out at this. Which makes sense, Iron Man has always been about tech progression and it did play a role into the story of the films. However, let's look at some characters where the nanotech helmets kind of just piss me off. Exhibit 2A, Iron Spider, I'm sorry, but you're back for another beating. Imagine if you told someone 10 years ago, dude, soon, Spider-Man in the movies, he's gonna have a nanotech helmet that can just appear out of nowhere. People would just be like, yeah, sure, dude. Whatever you say, I'm just excited for the greatest movie of all time, Fan 4 Stick. Like, brother, I did not know I had to say this out loud, but Spider-Man's costume should not have to be suspended in some containment liquid for it to fucking work. When Peter has a nanotech mask, you just miss out on a bunch of human drama. Like this from Amazing Spider-Man. Or this from Spider-Man 2. I'm just saying it wouldn't have hit the same if Harry had to pull out some sort of encryption hacking device to get rid of that mask. Or what if Doc Ock pulled off Peter's mask in No Way Home? That would have been so much more dramatic than nanobots just moving around Peter's body. Exhibit 2B, Ant-Man. Now you might be thinking, dude, Ant-Man's whole thing is going nano. What do you mean this doesn't make sense? Listen, it can still make sense in universe with the rules that just throwing left and right, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. I love seeing Paul Rudd's face pop through underneath that helmet shield. It just plays into his ruggedness as a thief. And obviously it just looks more real, and that Quantumania helmet stuff, it does just look lazy. I'm sorry. Exhibit 2C, the time-traveling Avengers. I know, the main reason for these costumes is because during filming they couldn't decide on what the costumes were gonna look like. However, it doesn't stop these costumes from being visually lazy. Yeah, let me just press this button and whoa, it's gone. No repercussions, no weight or anything, it's just fucking gone. And again, I get it, technology in universe has made this possible, but at this point, it's borderline magic. Exhibit 2D. Black Panther. I think we can all agree that the Civil War Black Panther suit was the best Black Panther suit. The way he just takes off his helmet is just complete fucking aura farming. Then they thought for some reason it would be cool if the helmet just disappeared because, you know, the tech is so advanced. Imagine how much cooler this scene would have been if he just slowly took off his helmet. Yeah, Wakanda's technologically advanced. Shut up, okay? Not everything has to be linear and logical in fiction if you want to deliver a better story. Exhibit 2E, we have Thor. Can someone please explain to me why Thor of all characters had a nanotech helmet? Okay, it's not nanotech, but it's still the same. Oop, look, it's gone at an instant with CGI because we couldn't decide on what it was gonna look like during pre-production. I mean, the way it just disappears. Where is it going? Is it just some magical hologram that wasn't there in the first place? Someone explain. Anyway, lazy. Exhibit 2F, I present Sam Wilson, Captain America. Why? Do you know how cool Steve Rogers looked taking off his helmet before fighting Batroc the Leaper? And you're telling me that Sam Wilson has a visor under another helmet? What? Even in universe, that doesn't make much sense. I also love how they make no attempt to show where this nanotech helmet folds into. Like, fuck physics, I guess matter just appears and disappears, or maybe it just folds into his tiny little fabric collar. Yeah, that makes sense. At least with Iron Man Infinity War, you can see where the nanotech distributed throughout his body. Sam Wilson's just using magic. Alright, while we're talking about CGI, let's go over this other trend that we all kind of hate right now, and that's when a costume is unnecessarily entirely CGI. Keyword here being unnecessarily. Like, I'm not gonna bitch about Thanos being CGI. However, sometimes I'm just like, dude, this does not have to be entirely CGI. And again, it's probably from a result of lack of decisiveness from pre-production and planning. Exhibit 3A, we have Black Panther, once again. I'm sorry, okay, good character, but we can't let this slide. It seems like every costume in the MCU is now CGI'd over unless you have some sort of military association. I mean, the final fight in Black Panther 1 is borderline just painful to watch. Apparently the VFX team only has 6 weeks to animate that entire scene because decisions kept changing behind the scenes, which is fucking insane. 6 weeks? Again, they film stuff with the actors, but they have to change everything later on because decisions just kept changing. Also, I know I was glazing the Civil War suit earlier, but I'm pretty sure for the most part, every Black Panther suit has been entirely CGI, or at least covered with CGI. They have a practical stand-in for principal photography, and then they just digitally replace it. Sometimes it's not noticeable, but other times it's like, oh man. The matte black in the Civil War suit definitely made it easier to hide the CGI, but when you got glowing lines everywhere and making it skin tight to his body, nah, man. Also, this isn't specific to Black Panther, but everything just has a gray wash to it to make the CGI less noticeable. You got costumes like Batfleck in BVS that looks really real because it was real. Then you got Black Panther running around in CGI glass, moving way too elastic for a real human being to be inside that costume. Fucking looks like Gumby doing parkour everywhere. But I can't talk about CGI superhero costumes without talking about the one that started it all, Exhibit 3B, Green Lantern. It's crazy to think that 10 years ago people would shit on Green Lantern for having an entirely CGI costume, but now it's like, fuck it, the entire Avengers just slap some digital suits on them and then we're good. Did this Green Lantern suit have to be entirely CGI? No, fucking of course not. But I guess out of all the mainstream superheroes, Green Lantern wouldn't have been a bad one to try it out on. I mean, there's the alien origin and there's the constant energy flows that they went with, so that kind of makes sense. Did it make sense on screen? No. And I don't blame the VFX people, okay? Do you know how long it will take to adjust a digital mask to every single micro expression on Ryan Reynolds' face? Plus, this was back in 2010, 2011, so technology would not have been as good as it is today. And as if you didn't have enough VFX resources dedicated to making the suit and the mask, but now you have to worry about CGI characters, CGI environments, and these superpowers, shit was getting spread way too thin. But again, probably just from the lack of time given because they didn't realize how sophisticated this process would have been, and studio executives, they just want to save money. So Exhibit 3C, The Flash. If there's an ugly suit for a titular superhero post-Endgame award, then The Flash might have it at a clean sweep. I'm someone who liked the Flash costume in the Justice League. I know a lot of people say that's over-designed and stuff, but I think it worked for the concept that they were going for. But this suit? I think we can all agree, unite all the nations here to agree that this suit is 100 times worse. What's funny is that I remember when they first released images of this costume and everyone was like, okay, that's not bad. We got a bright red, you know, much more simplified than the Justice League suit. But then more images started coming out, some in daylight, some in motion, and hope just started to spin down like bathtub water in a drain. We got bobbleheads, we got flimsy limbs, we got terrible physics, the fucking trifecta of a shitty CGI superhero costume. It's like Civil War Iron Man but on steroids. I mean, just look at that fucking head. That is pasted on. That is not attached to a real body. And the worst part about this is that there was literally no reason for the Flash to have a CGI costume in the first place. Green Lantern, alien origin, okay, I get it. Iron Man, you got a hunky humanoid mech suit. Okay, you can't really do that in real life. The Flash? What? I just have so many questions. Even the physical version of the suit that they made for marketing purposes, it just looks weirdly skin tight and plasticky like a Schumacher Batman suit. I wouldn't believe for a second that a real person can fit in there and move around. It looks like they'd just be stuck. Which is the opposite of what the Flash should be. Also, again, not blaming the VFX artists at all because there are some wildly ambitious action set pieces throughout this film and they probably had 2 hours to animate each scene and they probably got paid pennies and a slice of bread. Next example, we have returning guest MCU Spider-Man as Exhibit 3D. Yeah, you bet your ass these costumes look 3D. The worst culprits would probably have to be the Homecoming suit and the Iron Spider suit. If you didn't already know, they did have a real suit for Spidey's first appearance in Civil War, but that was pretty much just a placeholder for the CGI version to come later. And the thing is, this suit looks pretty good in most cases. It's just that they went skin tight in every single area of the human body and it just looks weird. Compare that to Andrew Garfield's costume or Tobey Maguire's costume and you get some wrinkles, you get some flaps. But then you look at this suit and something about it just looks really off to the human eye. And since they can just CGI the whole thing, sometimes it just looks like there isn't even a human in there. For someone like Iron Man, you can get some leeway because it's a chunky boy and your brain can just fill in the gaps like, oh yeah, there's a person in there, I guess. But when you see Spidey's costume fill in every single crevice of the human body, he just looks like a skinny little alien. Even the Night Monkey suit, yes, it was mainly in nighttime, so it's easier to mask the CGI, but even in still shots, you can tell that it looks so much more real because of the textures and the layers. Iron Spider, I've said my piece. Like, come on, it just looks real dodgy sometimes. I'm not saying I know any way to achieve this suit design practically. I'm just saying maybe let the VFX artists cook a bit longer and maybe finalize some decisions before filming the actual fucking movie. And maybe don't pick a design like this because it makes his head look really small for some reason. All right, next trend is the complete opposite, and that's no CGI when it was completely necessary. Yes, I'm being a picking and choosing bitch. Yes, I'm a hypocrite, blah, 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 blah. But sometimes when the budget ain't there, a studio will make a bizarre decision to make a character out of practical effects rather than the very much needed CGI. And I get it, CGI is expensive, and if it's for a main character, you would rather save that cash for action sequences and stuff. However, there are some characters I feel like if you can't do it with CGI, just don't fucking do it at all. The most extreme example of this is without a doubt Exhibit 4A, Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse. My God. This is the X-Men equivalent of trying to do Thanos or Darkseid with just makeup. And Oscar Isaac isn't even that short, but at 5'7", 5'8", not the best guy to portray Apocalypse. Apocalypse is supposedly around 7 feet tall, so yeah. They did the best they could with perspective shifting and stuff, but bro, come on. And the height is only one issue, the design itself, my god. The concept art looks good, but when you translate it to real life, it just looks fucking bizarre. I remember the whole meme about him looking like Ivan Ooze, which is pretty accurate. I mean, the fact that we got Thanos and Darkseid a few years after this movie came out makes us all the more embarrassing. It's unfortunate that pretty much means that Marvel's probably not gonna touch Apocalypse for a while, but I mean, at least that means they'll use Mr. Sinister soon, which is, you know, I'm down for that. There has been concept art of what Apocalypse could have looked like, and damn. I mean, the armor looks a bit outdated, but if you took that head on the costume that they went with, oh man, they could have cooked. Anyway, it's not like they would have had any CGI budget left for Apocalypse anyway after that whole Quicksilver saving the house scene. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Speaking of Quicksilver, the way that he pretty much looks the exact same size as Apocalypse is pretty fucking nuts to me. Like, that should not compute. Imagine the Flash slapping around a Darkseid the same size as him. That's not right. Anyway, just CGI him next time. Bryan Singer, I know you like things realistic and colorless, but from now on, maybe just worry about your other alleged problems in life, okay? Exhibit 4B, we got Killer Croc in Suicide Squad 2016. Now, let me just say this. Yes, the team did an insane job with the makeup. Like, I am honestly not surprised that they won the Oscar. Like, the reptilian skin flaps and the scale texture is fucking unreal, okay? Absolutely amazing artistry. However, I'm just saying that if Killer Croc and Deadshot are in the same movie, Killer Croc should be taller by a significant amount. But I will play devil's advocate here. They were clearly going for a more grounded rendition of Killer Croc, you know, just a guy with a skin condition and a mental health condition and a teeth condition and an appetite condition. That's not the point there. The point is that Killer Croc probably would have looked better as a CGI character. Not only would this have saved the headache from the makeup and the special effects department, but the whole movie was basically set at nighttime. If that's not a layup for a CGI character, then I don't know what is. I mean, how is this regular sized man with a skin condition taking on those alien minion things? And the fact that we got King Shark and James Gunn Suicide Squad a few years later kind of proves that this team needed a big man. And speaking of Suicide Squad 2016, I did make a video covering a bunch of DCEU concept art that was rejected, so if you haven't checked that out, check that out now already. I'll link it up here somewhere. Check out my Patreon, $3 a month for extra videos, and there are free videos for free members as well, so check that out as well. Check out my Instagram, check out my second channel for random vlogs and videos, check out my letterbox, and I'll see you next week. See ya.
915 in the